Hello.
Yay! Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. I had to go
Good.
get headphones really quickly because my next door neighbor, it is pitch black outside. It's 8 p.m. here, is weed whacking.
Of all times. Of all times. I also love how intimidating the screen looked. Like when we joined before we joined the screen, it was just our books staring at everyone.
Well, hello. It's good to see you. Where are you from right now? Where are you joining live from?
I'm in New York.
Are you really?
Yeah. So I'm
That's
also
amazing.
at 8 p.m.
So I'm in Baltimore, for anyone watching. And it's really good to talk to you. I haven't done an Instagram live in forever. I feel like I did one every week during the pandemic, and now I have not done one in forever.
Yeah. During the pandemic, the Instagram lives were in vogue.
Yes, they definitely were. I know I have to read an announcement, and I do want to say good evening to everyone, and super huge welcome to you. But I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I extend this to any First Nations people watching this evening. And as part of Booktopia's celebration of the best kids' books for all ages and reading levels during September, I am super, super thrilled to be joined by the New York Times bestselling author of These Violent Delights and its sequel, Our Violent Ends, Chloe Gong. So welcome. This is so awesome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So excited to chat with you, do all of the fun YA stuff.
And you're getting ready for your next release, right? Which is above us.
Yes. A week after you.
Yeah, I can't believe that it's coming up so soon because it felt like it was forever and ever away.
Right? It's always like, oh my goodness, like my book is coming out soon. My book is coming out soon. Oh, my book is really coming out.
Is this book number 3 for you?
Yes.
Yes. So, you know, and I know we're supposed to do it like in the middle, but you know what? We're scrapping it. We're scrapping
We're throwing
the
out
script.
the actual format.
I feel like we should lead in and talk about our books. Do you want to go ahead and give like a quick pitch about what it's about for anyone who doesn't know?
Sure. Yes. So 𝘲𝘪𝘮𝑑𝑦 Fortune is my 3rd book. It is the first in a series, but I always say it can also be book 3 of the previous duology that it's a spin-off of. So it is set in 1930 Shanghai, and it follows a girl who can't die or sleep or age and becomes recruited as a national assassin to basically figure out what's happening when a really strange series of chemical deaths start happening in her city. She has to do that by pairing up with another fellow spy and pretend to be fake married to, you know, get suspicion off their backs. And it comes with a lot of funny antics and a lot of schemes. It's based on Shakespeare's As You Like It, which kind of offers the tone that it'll come with. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So I have Defend the Dawn, which I also almost ripped off my phone, which I also have right here. Defend the Dawn is book 2 in the Defy the Night series. I'm very, very excited about it. It's very hard to talk about without spoiling anything in Defy the Night. Defy the Night is very much a story about outlaws in the kingdom of Kandala, and where you meet the outlaw Tessa and the cruel and terrible Prince 𝘓𝘓𝑦𝑒, who really isn't cruel and terrible. He is really just trying to do the best for his people. And working together, Tessa and 𝘓𝘓𝑦𝑒 narrowly avert a revolution in the kingdom of Kandala. But at the beginning of Defend the Dawn, not everything is amazing, and there are still threats of revolution. Not everyone is happy. There are still rebels who are still plotting against the throne. And suddenly a ship pulls up to port with some people on board who maybe promise a new way of curing this illness that is kind of plaguing the kingdom. Tessa and 𝘓𝘓𝑦𝑒 don't know if they can trust these newcomers, but they will stop at nothing to protect the kingdom. So they set off on a new journey to see what they can discover, and they find out some things about themselves. There is a new outlaw for everyone to meet, and I cannot wait for everyone to read it.
See, sequels are so hard to pitch, but you do it so well. I was like taking notes the entire time. I was like, oh, keeping vague, but also pitching it exactly to the storyline.
Thanks. Yes, it's very hard. But listen, I did not realize that yours was a spinoff. So tell me, what inspired you to write a spinoff?
I had it in my head from the very beginning. So Rosalind, the protagonist of Our Lady Fortune, is the cousin of Juliet, who is the protagonist of These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends. And the way that I went about it was I had finished the first draft of These Violent Delights. And back then, the book was just one big manuscript. I hadn't split it into a duology yet. The ending of Our Violent Ends at that point had been the original manuscript ending. I finished it and I thought, oh my goodness, like Rosalind as a character just gets the short end of the stick, like the whole way through. Like nothing goes right. And it sucks because the entire time she's kind of the character foil for Juliet. And the only reason why nothing goes right for her is because of the circumstances. And I sat there and I thought, that is so Shakespearean. And there's such a story here that I would want to explore further. But for the original duology, it was so much it was a Romeo and Juliet retelling. It was so much the story of Juliet and Roma and their kind of like, back and forth, that giving Rosalind too much time would kind of be straying away from the thing I originally set out to do. So I kind of started just planting the seeds across the duology and hoping that, if it did well, I could then write a spin-off. And thankfully, because the readers are amazing, it meant that when I was pitching like my next book, my third book after the duology ended, I was like, hey, what if we did a Rosalind duology? And my editor and my publisher were like, sounds great. I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm so excited because I think so much of like Rosalind's like start in this book is very much informed by the previous duology, but you can go in without having read it. So it adds that like extra layer of like new people can come in and read it if These Violent Delights wasn't their cup of tea, but old readers get that like extra like, fun when they get references and Easter eggs and all of that. So I love spin-offs. They're so fun.
I do too. I just had a spin-off of the Cursebreaker series just came out in June, Forging Silver into Stars. And it really is cool when people read that one and then go back and discover the Cursebreaker series. Yeah, I mean, because it's great for the, the OG fans to definitely revisit their favorite characters. But then it's also, I love hearing from people who start with Forging Silver and then go back to read the original series. It's just, it's a lot of fun to go in that direction.
It is because they kind of bring in the knowledge they already have. And they're like, oh, that's not what I imagined it would be, but interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Did you always want to write, because I guess you can't, because I really do a lot of retellings, but I can't really call it retelling because it's Shakespeare. Did you always want to use Shakespeare as inspiration?
I kind of stumbled onto it, I think. It was, when I got the idea for These Violent Delights, it was that I wanted to do a blood feud story. And it was so Romeo and Juliet-esque that I kind of decided to kind of embrace it head first and do a Romeo and Juliet retelling, especially because I really love Shakespeare and the whole, working with English canonical literature is the act of retelling over and over again. I thought it'd be really interesting. But then after I kind of made like a brand per se of doing historical fantasy setting meets Shakespeare, I kind of just kept it going. So when I got the Rosalind like idea, I was thinking, what plays already kind of fit within this narrative that I'm trying? And, because I planned it from the very beginning, that meant I could name Rosalind as Rosalind. Her sister is Celia in the play. Her cousin is Celia for As You Like It. And then I was just kind of sprinkling bits and pieces everywhere to get ready for like the change into As You Like It for Our Lady Fortune. So it was one of those things where I didn't set out intending to do it, but as soon as I realized that I could like fit it in, I was like, oh, that's so fun. And I feel like that's the most fun when we do the inspired buys, right?
Yes. No, I love it. And I think there's just something really universal about, whether it's Shakespeare, whether it's fairy tales, even when you drill down as far as tropes. I know sometimes people are like, oh, no more tropes. I think there's something really human about tropes that we just, we crave going back to the same stories over and over again, right?
It's comforting.
Yeah, it really is comforting. And I guess if we are talking about the humanity of it, what made you want to write in the young adult space overall?
For me, it was also one of those like you stumble into it kind of things, because I started writing at a really young age, and it was during the YA boom, right? Bridget, I don't know if I've told you this, while in our like few internet chats, but I read all of your Elemental series as it was coming out. So I was addicted to the library, right? Every week I was going in, I was reading like every YA book. I loved them. I just consumed them constantly. And it was during that age where it was fun. Like everyone was talking about YA. We were having this big moment. And I think I just kind of naturally slid in there when I started writing my own books. I feel like YA has that kind of obsessive nature to it, where the readers that you find in YA are kind of, they have a different quality to the readers that you find in adult genres a lot of times, because they're teenagers. They're really passionate about the kind of like stories that they're consuming. They're really passionate about talking and spreading the word of mouth and chatting with their friends. And it creates this kind of, I think, these conventions within the age category where you're telling these stories that are very accessible for that kind of chatter. And then it just creates such a like fun community. And because I grew up with that, I was like, well, this is naturally what I'm going to start writing. What about you?
I love that. Yeah, I am a lot older than you. So when I started writing YA and dinosaurs were roaming the earth. No, I'm kidding. No. I can't believe that you read the Elemental series. That's so funny. You know, that was my that was my debut series that came out so long ago. You know, I mean, because that was my debut and it came out in 2012 was the first book. No, I have always loved YA literature. You know, I started writing very young also. You know, I started writing in high school. That was the 90s for me. It was the early 90s for me. And, you know, I've always loved to write. And I remember when I first started trying to get published, I was writing, you know, adult romance and some adult paranormal romance. And I remembered I was good friends with Sarah Maas at the time, and we both had the same agent, and we were not published. And we were, I remember we were talking, and I was like, she had written a young adult novel, which actually ended up becoming Throne of Glass. And I was like, I think I'm going to try and write, you know, something YA, and it ended up being Storm. And I had always loved YA. I loved that, you know, there's something just so immediate about the storytelling. And I love talking to, you know, I love talking to students. I love talking to teenagers. I love that YA is so accessible for readers of all ages. I just got an email last night from a woman who's like 65 years old, who's reading, you know, the Cursebreaker novels. And I love that. You know, I love that. You know, being a woman in my 40s, it's funny when people write to me and they apologize. They're like, I'm outside your demographic. I'm like, no, I'm in my 40s writing them. It's okay. I don't know. I think people of any age can relate to, you know, falling in love or, you know, figuring out how to deal with their parents, you know, all of it.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where, although our target audience is teenagers, the beauty of YA is that it just reaches all of humanity because of these like core storylines that it's always concerned about. I love it when there are like grandmas or grandpas who are like in the front rows of like in-person events of like YA like series, and it's so like there's something so touching about it to have a reader who might not necessarily have been your target audience, but all the same, they loved it anyway. Like it kind of speaks to like it transcends everything, right? It's for the story. Yeah.
Yes, actually, one of my favorite reviews. This actually was the Elemental series. Was this is when I used to occasionally go on Goodreads, but it was a man had picked up Storm and started reading it to make fun of his wife because she. And he wrote a review and he said, I started reading this to make fun of my wife, but it was actually pretty good. And I ended up reading the whole series. And like, I love that, right?
He bamboozled himself.
Yes,
he thought he was gonna laugh at it, and then he got caught into the whole series.
Yes, exactly. I'm like that. See, and I love that. Yes. Yes. Is YA what you love to read, or do you read in other genres as well?
I have started branching into other genres. I think it is a recent development because I used to be so like into YA because it was the only like you know, set of books that I could even like really get, right? Like I remember like reading a lot of the time I would pick up a few adult books when I was younger because I would run out of YA books. Like again, I went to the library like voraciously, and then it just wouldn't be as fun to me. And it made a lot of sense because I was like 17 and I was like, oh, I don't get why they're so boring, and they're just having conversations for 10 pages. But recently, like as my frontal lobes develop more, I'm really loving like so many adult books. So I think it's, you know, people know what they're doing when they do the age category split. Yeah, I'm still gonna read YA for I think, you know, all of my life. Like there's just something about the stories that will forever be, you know, as we were saying, like they appeal to audiences of all ages. But I really love like adult fantasy and adult science fiction, especially these days. There's kind of something about reading certain books where I know I'm not smart enough for them, but I'm still along for the ride anyway. Like I recently finished The Three Body Problem, which is from a Chinese science fiction writer, Liu Cixin. And my mom has been telling me to read that book for like ages. And I finally picked it up. And sometimes it'll go on for like 10 pages and I don't understand a single thing. And I'm like, I'm having the time of my life anyway.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, no, that's really cool. You know, I can read everything. I cannot get into science fiction. I don't know why. I have a really hard time with it, but my husband makes up for it because he reads a lot of it. I love a lot of, I don't know, I do read a lot of romance.
That's why you're so good at writing them.
Thank you. I do. I love a lot of romance, both adult and YA romance. I like a lot of kind of weird memoirs.
Any recent recommendations?
I read, it's not a recent pub, but one that like really stuck out for me was Escape by I believe it was Carolyn Jessup, which was about a woman who escaped like the Warren Jeffs polygamous sect in Utah. And like if anybody liked the Netflix documentary, I think it was called like Keep Sweet or something along those lines, like Keep Sweet and Pray or something. Anyway, if anybody liked that, it was basically about a woman who escaped that polygamous sect, and it was really fascinating.
Wow, that sounds intense.
Yeah. So let's see. Oh, this is, all right, I am borrowing a little bit from the script. This is a good question though. How do you think TikTok has had an impact on the book industry and your book's success?
I mean, I think TikTok has had a huge impact on the book industry. And I think right now we haven't seen all of it, right? Especially because social media moves so fast, and recent, you know, TikTok is such a recent thing. I think we forget about that a lot of the time. It really only started like during COVID, at least Booktop. And then it only really blew up when that New York Times article came out about how it was launching, you know, every backlist bestseller back onto the bestsellers list. And then the whole industry started buzzing and being like, oh my goodness, what is this mystical thing? And I was on it back in, you know, mid 2020, and I was really watching the development of it. And it's really hard for me to answer this question about like what has it done, because I think TikTok made a huge impact, at least on my book release, and it's made a huge impact across the whole industry. Like that's undeniable. But so much of where it's going in the future is just like mysterious, right?
Yes, it really is.
It's so mysterious. As soon as you start bringing, I think, the corporate world into this kind of social media, it will get a shakeup in the same way that it happened to, you know, Bookstagram and then Booktube, and then even how the industry moved on to Twitter, and even before that. I think it's going to constantly keep moving. And I don't know. I will say that I really love it for its human aspect. Like TikTok, talking about books, feels different to a lot of other ones because you see people's faces, you see people's passion and the fun videos that they make, and it's, you know, it's such a great place of connectivity for me. Like I get to talk directly to readers. They get to tell me like what they thought. They get to show me like their reactions in a way that is so quickly accessible and so quickly like instant connection, right? But yeah, other than that, I don't know where it's gonna go as far as how books will take it. But what about you? What has been your experience with seeing TikTok rave about your books?
Yeah, I think TikTok is fascinating. Just like any other form of social media, I do sometimes see, especially debut authors, really stress about like needing to have a huge TikTok presence. And I think just like any other social media, it's one of those things you can't force. It's either going to happen or it's not. And I think it's amazing that, readers will find books and talk about them and post about them. I love seeing readers post about my books. I love, just like you said, I love being able to just communicate with people in another format. I think if I had been able to talk to authors the way I can talk to authors now, like when I was a teenager, I don't know what I would have done with myself. Like I would have been undone.
Me too.
Actually, maybe that's a really good question. Especially since you and I are like of different ages, how do you think authors, like, did you meet any authors when you were a teenager? Like, was anybody surprising? And you don't have to obviously name names. Like, how did that influence you, like, as you were a young author?
I would have given my limbs to meet authors as a teenager in a way that, it really makes me realize now as an author how much it means to just have a moment of connection with a reader, because sometimes it's so easy as authors to just forget that our books reach individual people, and it makes a difference, if that makes sense, to every single one, right? It's so easy to just think of everything as like an amorphous like glob, but no, like every single reader it reaches absorbs it differently. And I always just think back to how I was as a reader, like what I would have given to like talk to my favorite author just for like a few seconds. Unfortunately, I lived in New Zealand, and not a lot of authors come to New Zealand. But Australia's got the lovely Booktopia. New Zealand does have its chain stores as well. They're just kind of small because New Zealand is small. But I try not to be like sad about that, because I did have the internet while YA was raging as well. I remember once Veronica Roth answered my Tumblr ask, and I was over the moon for like a good week.
That's awesome.
It was a really silly question too. It was one of those, like, she was doing a Q&A on Tumblr, and I was like, it was one of those like questions that are just so generic. I just wanted to like speak. I was like, what writing advice do you have? Blah, blah, blah. And then her response was just like, the normal things that authors will say for writing advice. But I was like, oh my God, thanks. It was, I didn't get to meet anyone in person. I don't think anyone came to New Zealand, but having like even social media in the format it was back then was it was so wonderful just to have that. And now I think it's become even more like, accessible, intense, which does of course come with the bad sides. Like, I think every author, if you sit down with them, they can tell you like horror stories about like, 1-star reviews insisting on tagging them twice a week or something like that. So the internet, obviously, like with its increase in accessibility, will come with its dark side, but it's also brought so much joy.
Yeah, it's really incredible being able to, to hear from readers and talk to readers and connect with readers. I do think it's interesting that I think the expectations of authors is really different now.
It is.
From what it would have been even 15 years ago. I find it fascinating now. Just, every author is expected to have a social media presence, is expected to be somewhat, camera ready. It's almost impossible to not, right? Especially now with TikTok and things like that. I think it's really cute, especially when God, that sounds terrible when I say that it's really cute. But like when the older authors get on TikTok, Do you know what I mean?
It is wholesome. No, I know exactly.
It's awesome, and I shouldn't say that it's cute because I know that there are people who call me an older author. But it is like it's cute. It's cute. It's cute.
It's one of those things where you watch it and you go, oh, right. So cute is one of the best ways to describe it.
Yes, it is very cute. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I'm not in the vein where I'm like asking my kids how to use my phone or anything like that.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. I feel like the divide between author and reader has changed so much recently.
Yes.
Like, you know, when I was picking up Storm, you as Brigid, you were just the picture at the back. If there was a picture, you were the bio at the back, and that was it, right? These days, if a new reader goes to the bookstore and they pick up like Defend the Dawn, they're gonna find you on every single social media. Like, it's probably their first instinct, right? It's not even just it's not even like it's plastered on the back of the book or anything. It's like an instinct to go online and have a look. What is the author up to? It's so interesting.
It is. It really is. You know, and it's fascinating to me. And then it makes me wonder, like, what, you know, and I really didn't mean to veer this far away from our book, but it does make me wonder, like, what do authors like owe their readers, right? You know, how big a slice of our lives do we share? You know,
we could keep paneling about this for like a good.
We could. This could be like a totally different panel.
Yeah.
No, I know, because I know that they're like Instagram will cut us off, and I don't remember what the time limit is. So I don't know if we have to answer some of the Q&A questions, because I know some have come up.
Yeah. I saw one. Okay, what age recommendation would you give Foul Lady Fortune? I would say it's the classic YA, like 14 plus. There's nothing about it that's really, you know, 16 plus. I wouldn't go as far as 16 plus, and I wouldn't say that 11-year-olds should read it. So like a good, healthy, maybe 13 plus. Yeah.
13 plus.
Yeah.
Oh, here they are. Oh, sweet. I can see them.
Oh.
Oh, there's another one. Let's see. How do you write your books? Like, do you use outline? Oh, this is a good question. Can you see it too?
I can see it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I do not use outlines. I write a very loose.
Oh wow!
I write. So I'm very good friends with 𝘕𝘪𝘭𝘬𝘵, and she is a very detailed, intense outliner. And once she sent me like this incredibly detailed outline and asked me to read it, and I was like, "Why don't you just write the stupid book, Jody?" Because that is like my idea of hell. I write a very loose, like 2-page synopsis, so I have my main plot beats, and then I kind of wing it inside there. Are you an outliner?
I am. That's why I always gasp when people aren't outliners, because the way that my brain works is that I need to know everything that happens before I write it, or else I struggle so much. What I usually do is that I just call my outlines draft 0, because it's already so detailed that it's not even really an outline. It's already too like meaty for that, right? So I do like a huge brain dump of my thoughts. And I usually work on this over a really prolonged period of time, because it essentially is already like a part of the book. It's like, it almost reads like a screenplay, but like a really overwritten screenplay. Like I'll have like stage directions on it almost. Like this person is feeling this person has to walk this way. And in doing so, these actions are affecting these characters, and all of those little like nitty gritty things that sometimes don't even make its way into draft 1. But having that helps me understand like the word choices and like the prose selection and all that like pretty craft stuff that I then put together with all of that like in mind. So yeah, I guess I'm like an outliner, but like a really intense outliner.
See, I love that. And I love that writing can just be so different and end up in the same place.
Exactly.
I find it
They all put out
fascinating.
books anyway. Yeah, it's why when people ask about like what is the right way to write, or like how do you write a book, it's like there is no one way, and there's
just
rule.
Not. Yeah.
There's no one rule that applies to everyone. Sometimes really good like unshakable rules for one author is like terrible advice for another one.
Yeah. Fascinating. All right, what's this one? This is for both authors. Will we get to see any queer characters in your upcoming releases? How about you?
There is only one allocis het character in my entire main cast. Everyone else is queer.
I can't say who without being spoilery, but yes, absolutely.
Okay. Other question. Oh, there we go. I wasn't sure if I was.
I think Booktopia. No, Booktopia was doing it. Let's see.
Okay. What Taylor Swift song do you think encapsulates Foul Lady Fortune? Right where you left. Oh my God. Right where you've left. Why am I forgetting her song title? This is embarrassing. Right Where You've Left Me on the Evermore album, the bonus track. Oh my God. Is that the title? This is so, you know when your brain just like shorts out and then you can't remember like your favorite book title, your favorite like movie title or anything? This is me right now. I suddenly can't remember.
It's just because we're on camera. That's all. It's just because we're on camera.
Yeah, but everyone knows which one. Yeah, everyone knows which one it is. So, okay.
If you weren't an author, what career would interest you the most?
Oh.
I would be a middle school math teacher.
That's very specific.
I really like math, and I really like middle school age kids. It's just a really fun age.
It is. It's very like niche, right? Because you've really specified the age category and the topic. Oh, interesting. I would probably be something diplomacy related. So like, fun fact, I'm sure some people have heard of me talk about this before, but I was going to get like a day job, you know, like my first book published senior year of college, and I wanted to be a good, responsible adult and get a day job because, you know, I can't just launch from college to full-time author. Like, that's ridiculous, right? You tell any author that and they're like, are you sure? What about health insurance? So I was going to get a career and then write books as well. However, I graduated during COVID and no one was hiring. So I kind of got launched into being a full-time author. Thankfully, it's working well. No one worry about me. Health insurance is still very expensive, but we're making it work. So please pre-order my books.
Yes, everyone go on Booktopia's website and please pre-order. I mean, both our books, but yes.
Both our books. Yeah.
But definitely support Chloe's need for health insurance, 100%. Yes.
Okay. All the questions got swiped away. Did we
go through all of our questions?
Yeah, did we go through all the audience questions?
Wow.
I'm impressed.
Well, I do see one that's in the chat that says, what are we working on next? What are you working on next?
Currently, I'm working on the sequel to my adult debut, which is coming out summer of next year.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I'm really, really excited because it's my first time writing adult fantasy, and it was a lot of fun to kind of have that kind of like breathing room as far as the themes I could explore. So my adult debut, Immortal Longings, is a Antony and Cleopatra inspired secondary fantasy set in a world inspired by, I've used the word inspired by way too many times, set in a world inspired by the Kowloon Walled City, which was a tiny enclave in Hong Kong in the 1990s. And it follows a criminal princess and a exile aristocrat basically team up when they realize that they have some similar goals, but they're kind of in a competition to the death, which is not fun, which means that they can't really trust each other in the end because, as circumstances will have it, they do have to kill each other. You know, it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. So I'm really excited for that to come out, and I'm currently working on the sequel because, you know, in publishing, everything gets written so far in advance. And I'm really excited. What about you, Bridget?
That's awesome. Right now, I am working on the sequel to Forging Silver into Stars, which we have not revealed the title to it yet, but hopefully we'll do that probably in the next couple months. So, and that is due to come out sometime next year.
Very exciting.
Yeah, and then after that, I will start hopefully working on the book that follows Defend the Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your publication schedule is also every 6 months, right?
It's been a little bananas, so it might slow down a little bit in the next year or two because that's been kind of tough to keep up with.
Yeah. Do you have any advice as someone who is also about to enter that kind of publication schedule and dying a little?
Take care of yourself. Yeah, honestly, I have to say it's tough. It's really tough. Yeah, and it takes it's hard for the books not to swallow each other. Yeah. It is tough. Because it almost feels like you were just constantly in this state of promoting one book, writing another, and revising another. And yeah. But you got it. You've got this. You're a pro now. You've got this.
Yes.
Yeah, and now you have my cell phone number. Text me at any time. I am here to listen. Trust me. I feel your pain.
I think it's eating me whole. Like, it's okay. Amazing.
Yes, for sure. Did anybody have any last minute questions for us? And here, I'm going to check the thing and see if there are any other exciting questions that we should have chatted about.
The amazing run sheet. I think we covered everything important.
I think we did too. I know. I was just double checking the run sheet. I know, because I was also starting to panic because for some reason 40 minutes is in my head, and I know like Instagram literally just cuts the thing. But that might
Instagram doesn't cut it anymore. I've gone up to an hour.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. It still lets me go.
Maybe I'm thinking of Zoom. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, where can readers find you?
Oh, readers can find me at the Chloe Gong on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook now. I recently joined Facebook. Big step. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Tumblr, literally everywhere. I exist on the internet in all forms.
See, that's how I feel too, because I am just Brigid Kemmerer here on Instagram, on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. I do have a Facebook reader group. Everybody is more than welcome to come join. Am I missing one? I am not active on Tumblr anymore because I'm a slacker there. But yeah, very much the same. And both of our books, all of our books are available through Booktopia.
Up there, looking pretty.
Yeah, link is in the bio. Yes, I see. All right, and fantastic. I am so grateful to everybody for tuning in, and I'm so grateful to Booktopia for hosting us. And Chloe, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation.
It's been so fun. Thank you for hosting. Thank you, Booktopia, for the amazing book display up ahead and for coordinating all of this. So excited for your release, Brigid. I'm so excited for
so excited for yours too. Yay.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I guess that's... Thank you, everyone, for joining.